Kumla and Ablat Gemara. We are up to today Masechet Chagigah Daf Yud Daled Amud Aleph. We're continuing over here with Ma'asim Merkava. So we are about 6 lines from the top of the page. Amalei Shmuel. 6 lines. The last of the line is Lechia. Amalei Shmuel. Shmuel said Lechia Barav Bar Arya. Shmuel said to Lechia Barav, and he said to Lechia Barav, he said to him that Bar Arya. So you are the son of Arya, of someone who is strong in Teda. So let me just tell you something very nice. Your father Rav once said, every single day, every single day, malachim are created, every day, menahar dinar. Dinar is really 2 words in the pasuk, which is from fire. So from the river of fire, every day malachim are created. They sing their song, ubatli, and then they disappear. Every day the malachim come, appear, and disappear. They disappear because they say their shira before they're meant to say the shira, and therefore they disappear. Shenema, and how that happens? Chadoshim labkodim. Every morning you have new ones. Chadoshim rabu munasacha, and they give you the praise. And every morning you have 3 new ones because they pass away. And this argues Shmuel Achmeni. Shmuel Achmeni said that Amar Rabbeinu Kol Dibur v'di Malach. You say Malachim are created from the hard dinner. I'm telling you that every single word that Hashem says, every word that Hashem says, Nivra mimenu Malach echad, a new Malach is created. Shenema, it says, Bidvar Hashem Shemai Nasu. Hashem's words, the world of the heavens created. Uberuach Piv Kol Tzvam, and with the spirit or the breath of his mouth, Kol Tzvam. That's when everything else is created. So that's their arguing with Malach Kepra. One pasuk says, describing Hashem, it says that levushe, that the garment that he wears is kitflag, chiva, like white snow, the saharesha, and the hair on his head. These are all allegories. They're not meant to be taken literally. And the hair on his head, kaman, naka, like white wool. That Abish appears to be white, uksiv. But another pasuk says that that his hair locks tautalim, and shchaydes kaidim, that his hair locks are black like a raven. So which one is it, black or white? It's not a problem. Kam the yeshiva, kam l'chama. Here's the yeshiva. Here's when Hashem is sitting and not going to war. So they're for giving advice, dispensing advice, and all that. There, it's better to have a sage. And kam l'chama. When it comes to war, you want someone young, youthful, energetic. There's nothing better for you than for someone to seek advice is from a zaken. But for war, you want young ones. Another in these 2 psukim in this pasuk we just said, it says in the pasuk, Kar say that his seat Shavivin Dinir comes from the Nahar Dinner. So there's only one kisei hakavod for Hashem because of Echad. But another pasuk in that very same pasuk in the beginning, it starts with saying, Ad the cars of Rambam, the seat that's raised, but Atigim in Yosef, and it says seats. Kar Savon is seats in plural, and Atigim in the Abish refers to as Atik. Actually explains at length what that is. Yosef sits there. So is there 1 kisei hakavod or 2 kisei hakavod? Like Kash is not a problem. Echad David. One was for him, and one was for David HaMelech. Kitani we learned Echad David. But says one was for the Abish, one for David. Amalei basically said Akiva. How in the world can you bring any human being next to the Shekhinah? How great the human being is only limited, finite, and the Eibush is infinite. Both describing the Eibush of different activities. One is when he's judging, and one is when he's being charitable. Kiva accepted or not. Tashma coming here. Elsewhere we've read Kiva is the one that says one is for din and one is for tzedakah. And Azariah said, and here again he got attacked. Akiva, this is an expression we find a few times in Shabbos. We have the Shabbos and other places. He said, Akiva, you're Akiva, such a genius. What are you doing with Agadata? Klach medavasecha, stop talking about Agadata and go to Eitz and the Goyim Ba'alos, and better go to talk about this complex subjects. V'lech Eitz and the Goyim Ba'alos, go to the Goyim Ba'alos. The 2 chairs are not describing 2 separate chairs. It's the same chair, but 2 different parts of it. One is talking about the seat itself, one talking about the footrest. Kisei leishav alav and srafsev lahadron lagov. The place is featured them. It says Hashemayim kisei v'hod. It says them ragli. Kiyos Rav Yimdi came along. But he said, there were 18 curses that kill Yishai. So Yishai cursed. He said to them that 18 terrible things are going to happen to the Yidden. But he didn't finish until he gave them the final pasuk where he says about the terrible things that are that are going to happen. He said that Yirhavu Hanar, that the youth are going to be arrogant, bezaken over the older people, and the Hanikla, and those who are sort of despised people, benichbet, and those who are honored. There'll be no respect. So you said there were 18 curses, and that was the last one. What are the 18 curses? Because it says a pasuk, "Can you order Hashem?" There's a pasuk says as follows: "Can you order Hashem tzvakas the Eibishter Meisim Yerushalayim were removed from Yerushalayim from Yehuda Mishan one Gilina and Mishana, and somebody that is that's constantly there." Kol will soon translate each part what it means. Kol what each one is referring to. Kol Mishan Lechem, the support of food, of bread. Chol Mishan Mayim, and if somebody can please, Bechol Mishan Mayim, and the support of water. Gibor Ish Milchama, we're not Yudal over Aleph in the bottom half of the page, the second wide line. The Ish Milchama, a person who's of war, and this Hashem is going to remove from the Eden. Shayfet, the judge, the Navi, the Kaisim, and one who can make magic. The Zakein, and an older person. Sar Chamishim, an officer of 50 we had before, then three ponies, someone respected, the Yayitz, an advisor, the Chacham Charashim, who can give wisdom to other intelligent people, the Novel Lachar understands all the quiet talk, all the whispers. V'nosati No'orim Sareim, and I will make that their leaders will be young ones, V'talulim Yimshulubam. And again, people who are despised will rule over them. Now they're going to explain what exactly all of these different curses are referring to. Gemara says, Mishan, who is Mishan? Elu Bale Mikra. These are people who learn Chumash and they lean on Chumash. Mishana, Elu Bale Mishnah. The ones who are a bit more steady are Bale Mishnah. They don't just read the Chumash, they understand much deeper into it. There's actually an argument between Papa and Rabbanan. Chadam Sheish Meyos Sidrei Mishnah. One of them says there was 600 Dharma of Mishnah. We also have this conclusion in the first paragraph. There used to be 600. We have today 6. Right? Shas is Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. There are 6 orders in Mishnah. Like what we're doing right now. So there's Zerayim we had, Brachas, then we have Moyed, which we're doing right now, and then there's Nashim, Zikin, and Taras, and Kachim. But they used to have 600 different sets, or 700. The Mefarshim already asked in Kedushin, what does that mean? That means that we lost all of these other ones, or we were missing the bulk of the Torah? Chas v'shalom. But whatever it is, the 600, all the dinim of it were put into these 6. So that's what Yehuda Nasi did, which was remarkable, that he was able to condense all the ideas of the 600 or 700 and put them into the 6 that we have. Kol Mishan Lechem Elu Balatam. These are people who learn Gemara. That's the bread that gives you much more understanding what's going on. It says, go ahead and eat my bread. Drink the wine that I pour. Kol Mishan Mayim Elu, the drinking water. That's Bali Agoda. Why water compared to Bali Agoda? Hagoda Agadata. Shemoichin Liba Shalom Kemaim. It draws, it tugs at your heart like water does. Gibor is a Bali Shmuel. People know how lochas are called Gibor. The Ish Milchama, who is that? That's the one who can wage a war for Torah, to understand it as much as possible. Shayfet's a dying. What's a judge? A judge, somebody judges correctly. Novi, what's a Novi? Kimashmoy. Everyone knows what a Novi is. Kaisa, what's a Kaisa? Zeh Melech, referring to a king here. It says in Pasuk, it refers to king, one says Kesem al Sfasei Melech b'Mishpat. It says it refers to a king, it says Kesem al Sfasei. There should be Kesem on his lips. So Zokin Zeshiroli Yeshiva, somebody sits there ready to give advice. Sar Chamishim. What does it mean, Sar Chamishim? We had it before. So he says over here, Atikri Sar Chamishim Sar Chumashin. This is the officer over Chumashin. It's not enough just to know the Torah, but he knows how to lisa valit, he knows how to dig into the depths of the Torah. Dover achas chamishim is like a good. We can't from here now. She'ein ma'amidin meturgimin ala tzibur. If you remember that a Talmud Chacham used to have someone standing in between him, and he would say quietly to the meturgimin. The meturgimin would say louder so everybody can hear, and he would interpret the words. A rabbi who's tachon the chamishim shana. So either the meturgimin has to be 50 years old, or the rav that has the meturgimin has to be 50 years old. So maybe that's the Mechanam he said yesterday, that when he said, I don't want to learn Kabbalah because I'm not 50 years old yet. And interesting, nowhere does it mention this in Halacha as well. You have to be 50 to have a Meturgiman and all that. The Nesui Panim, somebody's respected, that should Nesim Panim L'Doidoi, everyone who looks up to him has respect to him. Lamailo, for example, who do we have that people respect? That Lamailo, who does Shemaim respect for? Take, for example, kindness that the entire world gets their sustenance in the schus of B'chanina B'daisa. And Chanin himself, die, he only has, caribs. Lamata, below here, that people have their chedes full of marshal, and even the goyim have their chedes. It's going Rabavu, big case will have Sanhedrin that when he came back with smicha, all the princesses came out dancing for him. So they all had respect for him. Yoyed, what do we advise this year? When we advise knows how to make a leap year and to calculate the new months. The Chacham, who's a Chacham, is a Talmud Amachtim as Rabbi. The Chacham is not somebody who's wise, but somebody who can also wisen up his teacher. Like we had in Tainus, that he learned a lot from his teachers, from his friends, but the most he learned was from his own students. Charoshim, that he can give advice to other Charoshim. But what kind of expression is charosh? Charosh usually means quiet. It means when he opens his mouth for Torah, hakol nasen charosh. Everybody else becomes mum. They become silent. The novin, what's novin? That maybe novin is somebody who understands one thing from another. Divrei lachash understands the things that are whispered. Somebody who is suitable to learn Torah that was given quietly. Either we're talking about the second luchah that was given quietly, or we're talking about the parts of the Torah that were given discreetly, like the Kabbalah. I will give them their youth who will come their leaders. My is it just the young one because of age? It's worse than that. People who shook off their mitzvahs, they are going to be in charge. They're the ones going to be in charge. And obviously that is a klala. And then it says v'ta'lulim, what do you call it? Yim shulabam. So who are these talulim? That'll be Yosh of them. Talulim are those who make fun. Amar Papa Barayakov, Tali b'nei Tali, a fox, the son of a fox. Now usually a fox is a complimentary thing. They're clever. But these people who make fun are not necessarily stupid. They're just skeptics and cynics. So Tali b'nei Tali, it's in their blood that they are wily like a fox, and they scoff at different things, and they will be in charge. Lonis still didn't yet finish. He said to him, Yidhavu Hanar, until he told them, Yidhavu Hanar bezokin, that the young ones will actually control the older ones. Not enough that they're going to be the officers, they'll actually have control. And Hanikla benichbet, and those who are despised, nichbet, they will control over those who are much more respected. So what are we talking about? So what's not, again, it's not a question of age, it's people who discard mitzvahs. Yidhavu will be in charge, and those people who are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate, which is a bit hard to understand because we can have the ending Gemara Chagigah we had before already, that even the Shoyim are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. So who exactly are we referring to? If we want to say that we're talking about over tzaddikim and people are righteous people, then just say that. Mamula mitzvah includes every single yid. Not sure. And those people who are nikla, who are despised, over those people who are respected. What's nikla? Nikla calls everything that make in Yiddishkeit. They always look for the easy way out. And they'll control. And the nichbet are those heavy ones, are those who are always machmer, those who are more strict. And the light ones will take over. I want you to know in a positive way. Then he was stumbling like poskim and the people were still honest, integrity was still there. It says in the pasuk, he eat each a person grabbed a hold of his brother, and he said the following. He said, "Simla lecha, you have a dress, cut it to become our officer, take over." What do you mean? Things that people dress up on, wear like a garment. Is yeshna tachas yadcha. You have under your hand, in other words, you have Torah under your hand, and you have it. So therefore, teach it us. You become our teacher, our Rav. Also, the people will respond. Don't make me in charge. Or basically, I have no bread, very similar, I have no clothes. Like the Smuni Katzin, do not make me a leader at all. So we see that they're honest, and they said, "Look, we can't answer you." Of the people, they swear. So they're saying that they swear that they don't make me a leader because I'm not suitable, I'm not qualified. I never sat in basic medrash to learn. The basic lesson, I have no bread or clothes. I don't have chumash, which is compared to bread, nor do I have mishnah, which is like the dress, which is around the Torah, like Gemara. So you see, people are always honest. Even in the times the basic medrash was being destroyed, and they had all the other serenity that they had, but they were honest. Says the Gemara, maybe there's difference. The Yamalu Gemirna. Maybe then it's different because he can't lie to them. But he'll say, "Okay, I'll be your Rav." They'll start asking shilas he won't know the answers to, so he'll be embarrassed. He knows that he'll be cut out straight away. That's why. If they were not honest, what they could have said is, "Oh yeah, I used to remember that. I just forgot." So this way, they sound like they were Talmud Chacham, but they don't have to worry about asking a shilah because they suddenly have amnesia. They could have said, we learned it. I remember learning it, but I don't remember what the pshat is. What do you mean? He said, I wasn't tied down. What do you mean? It means what? That I never learned. Says the Gemara. It's not so. You're telling me people are honest then. You know why Yerushalayim was destroyed? There were no longer any honest people around. It says in Pasuk that it says in Pasuk they wandered about, they sauntered about in the outskirts of Yerushalayim. See, go and search in their roads. Will you find a person in There's a person out there that will what do you call it? That will do justice and that's what I'll forgive him. If you can find me an honest person, I will forgive Yerushalayim. In other words, they couldn't find any honest people. Like Katja, it's not a question. That's what we're talking about. They were honest. When it came to business, people were dishonest. They were honest. The Master Matan, however, came to business, they were not necessarily honest. So we learned. Maisa talking about Maisa Mekava. Maisa was riding a donkey while Mahala Badera was traveling on the road. Abelazim and the Roch, Mechamed Amrav was leading his donkey behind him. So Abelazim said to Rabbi Yechon, teacher, Shonali Pedagach Maisa Mekava, teach me something about Maisa Mekava. Amalek said to him, didn't I tell you, you're not supposed to teach Merkava, this is what Yecheskel saw in Shammai. Don't teach it even to an individual, unless your Chacham made Medaita, he was wise and understood, and you're not there yet. Amalek, he said to him, Rebbe, my teacher, Tasheni Lem Lefanecha Davarechad, Shali Madatani, can you tell me something? Did you allow me to say something to you that I learned? That you taught, I say, the Yad Yori Bezakah, so right away, Rabbi Yechon Bezakah descended from his Chamoy. He said from his Chamoy, Malachus Atev, he brought his over Yoshua Evan. One thing I don't understand is if Rabbi Yechon Bezakah says you're not suitable to learn, and here the Lord said, you already taught me something. That means it was suitable. Unless it's not just a one thing that you're suitable and then can teach you everything. There are different grades of mice and recover, what I can reveal, what I can't reveal. You were ready for that, what I taught you last time, but you're not ready for the future ones. Anyway, he said, Rebbe, I'm going to show you that I fully understood what you told me last time. So he said, Rabbi Chazaka, went descended from his chamoy, and he sat down, he wrapped himself and he sat on a stone. Tachazai under an olive tree. Rebbe. He said, Rebbe, but now you don't tell me why do you have to descend from the chamoy? You're going to dash from Maisel cover. Shchini Imon, the Shchini will be here. Umalach Hashem Malavis, all of these angels surrounding us. And I'm sitting on a donkey like some arrogant person. Yad Posach was the Maisel cover. He started to dash the Maisel cover. The daughter, she dashed and beyond the Asian Shemaim. A fire came down from heaven. The Sibon surrounded them. They surrounded Koli Lonish, all the trees in the field were surrounded by this fire. Poschu Kulan. Then either the Malachim or the trees joined Va'amr and said Shira. They started to sing. Mas Shira Amr, what did they sing? Halus Hashem Mina Oretz. They sang, they praised from the ground. Taninim V'chol Tehemes and ate Pri V'chol Rozim. What we say in davening. Haluka. Then a Malach and a Malach came out from the fire and said, Hein, Maisa Merkava. This is exactly Maisa Merkava. This is Maisa Merkava. But you just said. So Rabbi Yechim Zakai was so impressed. Rabbi Yechim stood up and he kissed him on his forehead. Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael. Blessed the Eibush Shenosan Ben Lavram Avinu gave a son to Avram. Sheyadei Elohavin Ulachker. Those that understand and to investigate the Lidrash Darshan B'Maisa Merkava. And then he said, the famous saying, Yesh, no, but those people, those people darshan beautifully, demand from everybody to do things, but he himself doesn't do them. On the other hand, you have no Mekayim, people who follow and do everything right, and they walk the walk, but they don't know how to talk the talk. Ata no doidish v'no Mekayim. You do both. You know how to walk the walk and talk the talk, which is a rare quality. Ashrech Avram Avinu praises Avram shalozer ben Aroch yotzer mechaltzech, that you have such a descendant like Rabbi ben Aroch. When Rabbi Yeshua heard what happened between Rabbi Elazar and Arach, was a colleague of his. So Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, so he and Rabbi HaKohen, these are the names of the people in Pri Yavos there. Rabbi Yechim Mazaka's main Talmidim. Mahalchim, they were traveling. Omru, they said, we also should do the same thing. Pasach Rabbi Yeshua Yeshua then started and he dashed the Maisa Merkava. And on that particular day, it covers down in the middle of the summer. Summer, it doesn't rain in Israel. Suddenly, the heaven was filled with clouds. And they saw a rainbow in the cloud. And this rainbow was a positive thing, not like what it says in Parashat, which is a reminder of Hashem's anger. Malach came gathered together to listen to what Rabbi Yeshua was saying. Giving Adam like people that gathered together, boy leaders come to see the simcha of Chasam Kala. They come to see what's going on, and that's what the Malach did. They were curious. Related to what just occurred, and he then said, "Ashreichem." Praise to you, but Ashrei Yel Daseichem. This is what he said. Actually, in Pri Yavos generally, because he started, his mother brought him the thing. Praiseworthy are the parents who raise you, and Ashrei Ein. I praiseworthy my eyes shekach ro, that I was able to see such great students. I actually had a dream. Mesubin hayinu, that I and you were all together al Har Sinai. This is the dream that I had. We were all together in Har Sinai. The Nasna Aleinu Baskom in Shemaim. Then we heard a heavenly voice ring out from heaven, and the Amad said, "Alula Khan, rise here. Alula Khan, come up here. Traklin Gedoylin u'Mitzoyis Nois Mu'Toyis Lachem." That there's a beautiful palace and all of this beautiful linen and everything else and beds are set out for you. Atem you v'tamidechem tamidechem is among the that you're all designated for the third group, which is like the highest level, sitting before Mashiach. But Aini, it's not so. You told me that was great, but Tani learned. So you're talking about he was able to do Maisa Merkava. Let me ask a question. It says there were three people who presented to others. Rabbi Yeshua here said Rabbi Yeshua presented Maisa Merkava before. Rabbi Yechel ben Zakkai, Rabbi Akiva here to Lifnei Rabbi Yeshua. In turn, Rabbi Akiva presented Maisa Merkava to his teacher Rabbi Yeshua. And Hananiah ben Chachanoi here to Lifnei Rabbi Akiva. And Hananiah ben Chachanoi, like 3 generations, he went to present for Rabbi Akiva. The Ilu Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch is not mentioned as one of the people who knew Maisa Merkava. I think more like this. The Artzi Kamei, those people that presented for others, for Choshi, we count. The Artzi Kamei, they presented, but they weren't presented in front of them, like Chosh doesn't count. Says the Gemara, V'chananya ben Chachinoi, the Loy Artzi Kamei, Chananya ben Chachinoi, that they did not present before him, and yet the Choshiv, and he's mentioned because he was the last one of that line. There's nobody doesn't say anywhere that somebody presented before him. Says the Artzimiya Kami Manate. At least he presented Rabbi Kiva, who presented Rabbi Shua, who presented Rabbi Yechon Zakkai. So they were like Rabbi Lothar only presented Rabbi Yechon Zakkai, and that's it. Tell me learned. Abon Nichnas Bepardes, the famous Gemara. 4 people entered Bepardes. Rashi says through using one of Hashem's names. They said the same thing. Teja says it didn't physically go to Shemaim. It meant as if they went to Shemaim, or the Neshamas went to Shemaim. Ve'elohim ben Azai, these are the Ben Azai ben Zayma. We learned the end of the first page in Hedron why they didn't have a first name. Their names were Shimon ben Azai and Shimon ben Zayma. But both of them, because they passed away young, and because they didn't get married or didn't have smicha, it just says Ben Azai ben Zayma. End of the first paragraph. Ben Azai ben Zayma, Acher is Elisha ben Avu, and we actually learned something in his name when he was asked in this Kani were asked in Moed Katan. It says the only time that it says that they ever actually asked a Shiloh, besides the Mishnah Pegiyavas. But Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Kiva, all 4 of them entered the Pardes. Rabbi Kiva said, when you come to these marble stones, that are pure, do not be deceived by that, because it looks so deceptive. You think they look like water, mayim. Whatever this means in Ruchnis. It says, Hashem doesn't want anyone who says something which is a non-truth. Ben Azai hates Ben Azai. He saw too much kedusha, but makes he passed away. All of our regarding him, the pasuk says, "Yekor ben Hashem that it's so difficult for Hashem. Those chassidim will pass away young." Now, according to Ben Azai did get married to Rabbi Kiva's daughter, but he divorced after a few months because he said, "Nafshi choshka b'Torah. I want to learn Torah." Ben Zayma's colleague hates it. He also looked in such a high level of Gusha and he couldn't take it, Benivka, and he went off his mind. All of our Kasavim regarding him, it says, you found honey, and Ochel, you ate dayach enough. Don't eat too much because penties better. If you eat too much, you say it with it, it'll cause you to vomit. So it had a very bad effect on him. What happened to Acher, Elisha ben Avu, Kitz's Benatias, he started chopping out, he went off the derech. And Rabbi Akiva, Yotze b'Shalom. Rabbi Akiva, he went out peacefully. And in the Shami's version is, Nichnas b'Shalom, Yotze b'Shalom. And as Chassidus always points out, the Rebbe always points out, the reason why Rabbi Akiva was Yotze b'Shalom, because Nichnas b'Shalom. It's not that he was luckier that he came out b'Shalom. It's the attitude, the way he came in. They all came in unbridled. They wanted to absorb as much as they can. Rabbi Akiva, on the other hand, decided to come in. He tempered his desires, and therefore Nichnas b'Shalom v'Yotze b'Shalom. Shalom b'Zaymer, the ask b'Zaymer Shaila. Ma'u l'serusei, are you allowed to castrate kalba, a dog? You're allowed to castrate. We learned in Mar Shabbos. In the Shemona Shrotzim, it says in the pasuk, you're not allowed to castrate. It says you're not allowed to castrate and so on and so forth. It's just like you're not allowed to do it for carbon, nor can you do it on your land. And the Gemara says this, not right to solve for the whole world. So now we're asking, what about animals that are not suitable for a carbon? And we're highlighting a dog, as the Chagigah Daf points out, a dog is worse than all other animals. All other animals are not kosher, but you can exchange the animal for something else and bring that to Mizbech. A dog is the only one. The Torah says, don't bring Mechir Kelev. Not only is a dog despicable, but even the animal that you swap for a dog, you cannot bring on the Mizbech. So the question is, if this has nothing to do with the part of the Mizbech, can you go ahead and castrate it? Amalemi said, there's no specific, just says in your land you shouldn't do. It's sort of disjointed from the part of the carbon about the part of the pasuk about karbanos. It talks about everything else. It doesn't limit to anything, any animal. Shalom ben Zayim, asked one other question. Besula, the as bezayim, a kohen gadol has to marry a psula. The mitzvah's asay. So what happens? A girl who's a virgin. What happens? He married a psula. A girl turned out to be she was pregnant. Is it possible to become pregnant and still be a psula? Just because you didn't physically remove the hymen doesn't necessarily mean a psula. Psula means a virgin. But is it possible to be a virgin and be pregnant? Shalom ben Zayim besulish she'ibra. In other words, the Kohen Gadol married, or there's two ways of understanding. Either it's a chatchila, the Kohen Gadol meets his girl, he falls in love with her, and she says, even though I'm pregnant, I'm really a psula. Or he already married her, think he's a psula, and it turned out to be that she's pregnant. Only with the evid. And what's it then? Could he remain living with her or not? So that psula mao, the Kohen Gadol, and a Kohen Gadol has to marry a psula. The shayla follow. Me Chayshin and Shmuel do we say that it's possible? It is possible to impregnate a woman and still leave her a virgin, because Shmuel once said, I know how to master it. That even though the girl had a hymen, the young girl, I can have relations without removing the hymen. So maybe she's talking not a virgin. So the Kohen Gadol cannot remain living with her. This concept of Shmuel is not common. In other words, she did become pregnant without having a relationship. How is that possible? We said back, yes, Shmuel is not common. But the Chayshinan, what we are saying, so how in the world did she become pregnant? Chas v'sholom, the guy should come to the maklut. But Shema ba'ambati ibra. Maybe it happened in the bathtub that we discussed a few days ago. What I told you then, that Chalkas Mechaik, beginning of Ebenezer, brings a medrash that Yirmiyah left behind some Shich Zera in an abati in a bathtub, and this woman fell pregnant, and that's how she conceived with Ben Sira. The Gemara has a possible Shmuel Kol Shich the same Shmuel said any Shich Zera that doesn't shoot out like an arrow, Ein Mazras, cannot impregnate. So Gemara says, doesn't mean the way it enters the woman is that it had to be shot like an arrow. It means it had to come out of the man, escape from the man like an arrow. So even though if it entered the bathtub that way, and then she somehow or another absorbed it inside her, she can fall pregnant. Over here, Rashi doesn't bring this medrash about Ben Sira. And but this is what it says over here that's possible. So it's possible to fall pregnant. Interesting. So Shmuel case is even less common than the Ambati case. Shmuel, that you can impregnate a woman without removing her hymen, is practically impossible. But it is possible to have a case of a shich zera floating in the bathtub and somebody should become pregnant. As we learned, as the Beis Shmuel brings up proof that says the woman shouldn't sit naked on a linen piece of linen. It might have shich zera and she might fall pregnant. And what we had last time was other Mepharshim disagree, and they bring an ayah from it says habo al ha'erba. The only way, and the only way you can biologically be considered a father and all that is if bo al ha'erba, you went the natural way that you actually had a relationship. And this, I tell you, is very important. And Moshe Feinstein and others talk about, when you have artificial insemination, how do we treat the donor relationship to this child? Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll see you tomorrow in Mitzvah.